Smoke drifted across the ravaged landscape. The once vibrant, life-filled planet was now scarred and broken. The brutal invasion had left its mark. The creatures, grotesque and relentless, had pushed the Space Marines to their very limit. Victory had come at a terrible cost. Many brave soldiers would never return home. Their sacrifice weighed heavily on the hearts of the survivors. The Starship Ares, her hull bearing the scars of battle, stood watch over the grim scene.
Inside the Ares, the mood was somber. Captain Somerville, his face etched with weariness, stood on the bridge. His eyes stared out at the ravaged planet. The victory felt hollow. The enemy, though defeated here, was far from vanquished. He knew in his gut that this was only the beginning. The ancient evil that plagued the galaxy was insidious, pervasive. It would rise again, and the next time, it might be even stronger. He could only hope that the Galactic Alliance would be ready.
Lieutenant Johannsen, his usual cocky grin replaced by a grim line, checked his weapons console. The battle had taken its toll on the Ares. He had never seen combat as fierce as what they had faced on that planet. The creatures were like nothing he had ever encountered. They were relentless, driven by a primal hunger that defied reason. He shuddered, remembering the way they moved, the way they attacked. He knew that he would never forget the horrors he had witnessed.
Lieutenant Volkov, her face pale, worked tirelessly in the medical bay. She had never seen so much death, so much suffering. The wounded arrived in droves, their bodies broken and burned. She used all her skills, her knowledge, to save as many as she could. But for some it was too late. The life drained from their eyes as she watched, helpless to stop it. Each life lost weighed heavily on her soul. The war, once a distant threat, had become all too real.
News of the battle spread through the Galactic Alliance like wildfire. Fear gripped the hearts of many. The creatures, once thought to be legends, were real, and they were a threat to every civilized world. The attack on the Ares and the near defeat of the Space Marines sent shockwaves through the galaxy. The Alliance, once confident in its strength, was now facing a terrifying enemy. Emergency meetings were convened on countless worlds. Leaders debated the best course of action. Some argued for a swift and decisive strike, to crush the enemy before they could regroup. Others urged caution, warning against underestimating the enemy. The stakes were higher than ever before. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance.
General Petrov, a seasoned veteran with a steely gaze, listened intently to the reports. His jaw was set, his expression grim. He had seen his share of battles, but even he was troubled by what he had heard. The creatures were unlike any enemy the Alliance had ever faced. They were relentless, adaptable, and driven by a primal rage that defied understanding. He knew that the Alliance needed every advantage it could get. Admiral Nelson, his face etched with worry lines, spoke in a low voice. "We were fortunate this time, General. The Ares and her crew fought bravely, but they were outmatched. We need to be prepared for the next encounter. We cannot afford to underestimate these creatures again."
The debriefing room was cold and sterile. Captain Somerville, still weary from the battle, recounted the events of the invasion. His voice was flat, devoid of emotion. He described the ferocity of the creatures, their uncanny ability to adapt to their surroundings. He spoke of the bravery of his crew, the sacrifices they had made. His words painted a grim picture of the battle, a stark reminder of the enemy they faced.
The death count had been high, the unspeakable horror of how so many Space Marines died so painfully. General Petrov listened intently, his eyes narrowed. He absorbed every detail, every nuance of Somerville's report. He was a strategist, a master tactician. He needed to understand the enemy, to anticipate their moves. He asked pointed questions, seeking to uncover any weakness, any advantage they could exploit. The fate of the galaxy might depend on it.
Lieutenant Johannsen, his usual bravado subdued, provided his own account of the battle. He spoke of the creatures' weaponry, their brutal tactics. He described the fear that had gripped him, the feeling of helplessness as they were overrun. He had never felt so outmatched, so utterly overwhelmed. His words hung in the air, a stark reminder of the horrors of war.
Lieutenant Volkov, her voice trembling slightly, spoke of the casualties. She described the horrific injuries, the desperate struggle to save lives. She spoke of the courage of the wounded, their determination to survive. Her words brought tears to the eyes of even the most hardened soldiers in the room. The cost of victory had been high.
Despite the grim reports, there was a glimmer of hope. The scientists and engineers of the Galactic Alliance, the best minds in the galaxy, had been working tirelessly. They analyzed the data from the battle, studying the creatures' physiology, their technology. They were determined to find a way to defeat this new threat. New weapons were being developed, more powerful and effective. Armor was being upgraded, designed to withstand the creatures' attacks. Interdimensional quantum shifting shield technology that had already proven effective on starships was being miniaturized for incorporation into the Space Marines' armor to massively upgrade their ability to both fight and survive encounters with this powerful and terrifying enemy. Tactics were being revised, adapted, and upgraded to counter the enemy's strengths. The Alliance, though shaken, was not defeated. They would learn from their mistakes. They would adapt and overcome. General Petrov, his voice firm and resolute, addressed the assembled leaders. "We have faced challenges before, and we have always emerged victorious. This time will be no different. We will not cower in fear. We will fight back. We will defeat this enemy, and we will secure the safety of the galaxy." His words, filled with determination, resonated through the chamber. The fight was far from over, but the spirit of the Alliance remained unbroken. Deep within the metallic heart of a heavily fortified space station, a hive of activity pulsed with urgency. The fate of the galaxy rested on the shoulders of the brilliant minds gathered here. Engineers, their faces illuminated by flickering holograms, toiled tirelessly, their fingers dancing across control panels. The air hummed with the whine of energy weapons being calibrated and the hiss of plasma torches shaping new alloys. The Galactic Alliance, shaken to its core by the recent encounter with the grotesque alien invaders, had dedicated its vast resources to developing new technologies for the Space Marines. The goal was not just to level the playing field, but to forge a decisive advantage in the coming battles. The survival of countless worlds depended on their success. Failure was not an option. Progress, innovation, and unwavering dedication, that's what I demand from each of you. General Petrov, his imposing figure, a beacon of authority amidst the controlled chaos, surveyed the bustling scene with a critical eye. His gaze swept over schematics of advanced weaponry, prototypes of reinforced armor, and simulations of tactical maneuvers. He demanded progress, innovation, and unwavering dedication from the teams working under immense pressure. The future of the galaxy rested on their ingenuity and speed. "We must innovate and dominate, or we will die."
The general paused beside a team of engineers huddled around a holographic projection of a sleek, powerful exosuit. The suit, designed to augment the Space Marine's strength and resilience, bristled with an array of greatly enhanced weapons and upgraded defensive systems that included the new quantum shielding. Petrov listened intently as the lead engineer, his voice tinged with both excitement and exhaustion, explained the suit's capabilities.
General, this new Mark 7 exosuit will be a game-changer on the battlefield. We've incorporated the newest generation of quantum energy shielding that can withstand even the most brutal assaults from those creatures. The integrated weaponry has been massively upgraded with increased firepower and accuracy. Our Space Marines will be like walking arsenals, capable of laying down devastating fire while remaining highly mobile. Good, but it's not enough to simply match the enemy's brutality. We need to surpass them. Our soldiers need every advantage we can give them. This suit needs to be more than just a weapon. It needs to be a symbol of our resolve, a testament to our ingenuity. The enemy needs to look upon it and feel fear, the fear of facing an unstoppable force. We understand, General. We are pushing the boundaries of technology here. We are incorporating advanced targeting systems, enhanced mobility features, and even experimental close combat enhancements. The miniaturized interdimensional quantum shield shifting technology can adapt for melee combat so that any enemy that engages a Space Marine in this armor will find themselves missing body parts which have been shifted into another dimension and state of matter. The same technology will allow Space Marines to phase in and out of dimensions so they can pass through solid matter, or have solid matter pass through them harmlessly. This shielding also allows them to both block and absorb any kinetic or energetic weapon attack that will simultaneously charge the shield generator. This suit will be the pinnacle of military technology, a force to be reckoned with. Good, see that it is so. The fate of the galaxy rests on your shoulders. Petrov clapped a hand on the engineer's shoulder, his grip firm. He turned and strode away, his heavy boots echoing through the cavernous chamber. He had faith in the men and women under his command, but he knew that even the most advanced technology would be useless without the courage and skill of the Space Marines who would wield it. On a remote training facility orbiting a desolate moon, a new generation of Space Marines was being forged in the crucible of intense training. Recruits, handpicked for their physical prowess, mental resilience, and unwavering dedication, were pushed to their limits and beyond. They sparred with each other in simulated combat environments, their exosuits clanging against each other with thunderous booms. Live-fire exercises sent scorching energy beams searing across the training grounds, leaving trails of molten metal in their wake. Drill instructors, veterans of countless battles, barked orders demanding perfection from their charges. These new recruits were the first to be equipped with the Mark 7 exosuits, and the fate of countless worlds rested on their ability to master these advanced weapons systems. They trained day and night, honing their skills, pushing their bodies and minds to the breaking point, driven by the knowledge that the galaxy needed them to be ready.
Move, move, move! You're fighting for your lives out there. Every second counts. Every shot fired could be the difference between victory and oblivion. Lieutenant Johannsen, his usual swagger replaced by a grim determination, oversaw the training with a critical eye. He had witnessed firsthand the horrors of the enemy, the brutal efficiency with which they tore through conventional forces. He knew that these recruits were the galaxy's best hope, and he pushed them relentlessly, determined to forge them into an unstoppable force. Despite my outward confidence, a flicker of doubt gnawed at my resolve. I had seen the enemy up close, had felt their fury wash over me like a tidal wave. I knew that even the most advanced technology and the most rigorous training could not fully prepare someone for the horrors of facing those creatures in battle. I pushed those doubts aside, burying them beneath layers of determination and focus. I had a duty to these recruits, to the galaxy, to prepare them as best I could.
One evening, as the training cycled down and the exhausted recruits collapsed on the barracks floor, Johannsen found himself alone in the observation deck, staring out at the cold, unforgiving expanse of space. He was joined by Lieutenant Volkov, her presence a welcome respite from the constant tension and noise of the training facility.
They're pushing themselves hard. They know what's at stake.
They're good, the best we've got. But I can't shake this feeling, Volkov, this unease. Like we're sending them off to a slaughterhouse.
Volkov placed a comforting hand on his arm, her touch sending a wave of warmth through his tense muscles.
They're ready, Johannsen. You've trained them well. They have the best technology, the best armor, and the best leadership. They will fight with courage and skill, and they will win.
Johannsen looked at her, his eyes reflecting the flickering lights of the starscape beyond the observation window. I hope you're right, Volkov. I really do.
Volkov's expression hardened with a resolute strength that belied her gentle touch.
It's not about hope, Johannsen. It's about faith. Faith in our soldiers, faith in our technology, faith in ourselves. We have faced darkness before and we have emerged victorious. This time will be no different.
Her words, imbued with an unwavering conviction, resonated within Johannsen, calming the storm of doubt that raged within him. He drew strength from her unwavering resolve, her belief in the indomitable spirit of the Galactic Alliance. You're right, Volkov. We will not falter. We will not yield. We will stand against the darkness and we will prevail.
As the two officers stood together, united in their determination, the training facility hummed with renewed purpose. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance, but the spirit of defiance, the unwavering will to resist the encroaching darkness, burned brighter than ever within the hearts of the Space Marines. General Petrov stood alone in his dimly lit strategy room, the weight of countless lives pressing down on him. The fate of the galaxy, the very survival of civilization, rested on his next move. He studied the holographic projection before him, his brow furrowed in thought. The star system shimmered in the air, a tapestry of light and shadow, representing the battleground upon which the fate of the galaxy would be decided. This is where we strike. This is where we make our stand. The general had always been a man of action, a decisive leader who inspired confidence in his troops. But this time doubt gnawed at the edges of his resolve. The enemy they faced was unlike any he had encountered in his long and illustrious career. They were relentless, adaptable, and driven by a primal rage that defied comprehension. He had studied the reports, analyzed the data from previous encounters. He had pored over tactical simulations, exploring every possible scenario, every potential weakness in the enemy's defenses. But still, a sense of unease lingered in his gut. This battle, he knew, would be different. This time, they were fighting not just for territory or resources, but for the very survival of their civilization. Petrov, are you sure about this? This is a risky move even for you. We don't have a choice, Nelson. We need to take the fight to the enemy. Strike at the heart of their operations. Their forces are concentrated here, guarding a key supply route. If we can cripple their logistics, disrupt their supply lines, we can slow their advance. It's a gamble, Petrov, a gamble we may not be able to afford to lose. I know, but fortune favors the bold, Nelson. We have to trust our instincts, our training, and the courage of our soldiers. We have to believe that we can win this. All hands, battle stations. This is it. We've trained for this. We're ready. Let's show them what we're made of.
You okay, Volkov?
I'm just thinking about all those lives out there on both sides. This war, it changes everything. It doesn't have to be like this. There has to be another way.
I know, Volkov. We'll find another way. We have to.
Incoming transmission, Captain. It's the enemy flagship.
The bridge fell silent, the tension thickening as everyone turned towards the main view screen. A holographic image flickered into existence, resolving into the grotesque visage of the enemy commander.
We are here to negotiate peace, not to fight. We know that we have a common enemy. We can choose to stand together or fall divided. Captain, permission to engage? Li asked, his voice tight with controlled fury.
Not yet, Ensign. There's something about that. I don't trust it.
Captain, with all due respect, we're sitting ducks out here. If they open fire...
They won't. He's stalling for time, but why?
As if to answer her question, the holographic image of the enemy commander flickered momentarily, replaced by a chaotic jumble of static. When the image stabilized, the commander's face was contorted in a mask of fury, his reptilian eyes wide with a primal fear that chilled them to the bone. "They're here," the commander hissed, his voice a strangled gasp. "The destroyers, they've come to punish us all." "Report!"
We've lost contact with the enemy fleet, Captain, reported Communications Officer Volkov. Sensors are picking up multiple energy readings, but they're chaotic, unlike anything we've encountered before.
Visual?
Negative, sir, the sensor operator replied. Whatever we're dealing with, it's masking its energy signature. Our sensors are practically blind.
On the planet city of Corvus Prime, the heart of the Galactic Alliance, General Petrov watched the reports come in, his expression grim. Entire fleets were vanishing from the galactic map, their last transmissions filled with static and the screams of dying men. "General," a voice crackled from the communicator. "We're receiving a transmission from the Ares. It's faint, heavily distorted, but it's coming through." "Patch it through," he ordered, his voice tight with anticipation. General Petrov, do you copy?
Somerville, it's Petrov. Report. We've encountered the destroyers, sir. They're unlike anything we've ever seen. They radiate raw energy, warp space-time around them. Our weapons are useless.
Somerville, listen carefully. I have a plan.
He wants us to what? Johannsen exclaimed.
Just listen. The key is the language. They communicate through complex energy patterns, but there's a logic to it, a structure. If we can generate a counter signal, disrupt their communications, create enough chaos.
You're suggesting we jam their comms? With all due respect, Volkov, that's like trying to stop a hurricane with a feather.
It's not impossible, Johannsen. I've been analyzing their language, their communication protocols. There are vulnerabilities, patterns we can exploit. It's a long shot, but it's our only shot.
Johannsen, see if you can give Lieutenant Volkov what she needs. We're going to fight back. Target their command ship. If we can hit that, disrupt their chain of command.
Targeting now, firing.
A pulse of energy, modulated with Volkov's carefully crafted harmonics code, surged from the Ares, ripping through the chaotic energy field that surrounded them. For a moment, everything seemed to pause. The destroyers, their movements momentarily disrupted, turned towards the source of the signal, their energy signatures flickering in confusion. On Corvus Prime, General Petrov watched the unfolding battle with a mixture of anticipation and dread. The Ares, a tiny beacon of defiance in a maelstrom of destruction, had bought them a precious few moments. It was time to make their move. "All units, attack!" Petrov roared. "For the Alliance, for the galaxy!" The energy pulse from the Ares hit the destroyer command ship like a thunderclap. The massive vessel, a terrifying monster of a starship, shuddered violently, its shimmering energy field flickering and distorting.
Direct hit, Captain. The counter signal is disrupting their communications. They're turning on each other.
Good work, Lieutenant. Volkov, can you hold it?
I don't know, Captain. The signal phases are unstable. They're adapting, trying to compensate.
The chaos wouldn't last forever. They had bought themselves a precious few moments, but the destroyers were already regrouping, their energy signatures stabilizing as they adapted to the counter-signal. They needed another miracle.
Ensign Li, can you get us out of here?
No way, Captain. We're surrounded. They've got us locked in their energy field. We can't jump, can't maneuver. Li's voice trailed off as an idea. A desperate gamble took shape in his mind. He had been studying the destroyer ships, analyzing their movements, their energy patterns. There was a pattern to their attacks, a rhythm to their chaos, and he thought he saw a way out, a narrow window of opportunity. But, Captain, if we time it just right, ride the energy wave from their next attack, I might be able to quantum shift our shield harmonics for an interdimensional slingshot maneuver to escape out of here. It's risky, but I think I have just enough distance to pull it off.
Do it, Ensign. Somerville's voice was grim but steady. He didn't need to hear the rest of Li's assessment. He knew a desperate gamble when he heard one, and right now, it was their only option.
As Li wrestled with the controls, trying to thread the needle between a dozen destroyer ships, Volkov continued to work on the counter signal. She could feel the pressure, the urgency in the air. The fate of the Ares, the fate of the galaxy, rested on her ability to keep the destroyers off balance. She had been studying their language, their communications, ever since their first encounter. There was a complexity there, a depth that hinted at something more than just a primal destructive force. She had glimpsed glimpses of something else, something ancient, something sad, and then it hit her. A pattern, a recurring motif in their communications that she hadn't noticed before. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but it was there. A note of sorrow, of regret, woven into the fabric of their destructive energy. She had been so focused on disrupting their communications, on finding a way to defeat them, that she had failed to truly listen. These destroyers, these monstrous beings of pure energy, weren't just mindless destroyers, they were mourners, lamenting something lost, something broken.
Li, his hands a blur on the controls, timed his maneuver perfectly. The Ares, caught in the wake of a massive energy discharge from a nearby destroyer ship, shot forward, like a surfer riding a monstrous wave. For a heart-stopping moment, it felt as if the ship would be torn apart by the sheer force of the energy surge. But Li held firm, his piloting skills pushed to their absolute limit. The Ares, battered but intact, emerged from the chaos. A tiny speck of defiance against the backdrop of a collapsing energy field. They were free. "We did it, Captain,"
Li shouted, a rare grin spreading across his face as the Ares broke clear of the destroyer fleet. Somerville, his heart still pounding in his chest, allowed himself a sigh of relief. "Good work, Ensign. Excellent work." He turned to Volkov, who was staring at her console, her eyes wide with a mixture of awe and understanding. "Volkov, what is it? What did you find?"
Captain, I think I can talk to them. The destroyers, their attack on the Ares disrupted, their communications in disarray paused, their energy signatures pulsing erratically. She spoke to them, not in the language of war, but in the language of empathy, of shared loss, of understanding. She spoke of the beauty of the galaxy, the fragile wonder of life, the pain of loss, and the enduring power of hope. She spoke of the common ground they shared, the grief that bound them together, even as it tore them apart. And slowly, ever so slowly, the destroyers responded. Their chaotic energy signatures calmed, their movements becoming less erratic, more curious. The tide of the battle had turned, not through brute force, but through the power of understanding, of compassion. The battle for galactic supremacy was far from over, but in the heart of the darkness, a glimmer of hope had emerged, a hope that even the most ancient of wounds could be healed, that even the most destructive of forces could find peace. Volkov's words, infused with empathy and a deep understanding of the destroyer's sorrow, echoed through the chaotic battlefield. The monstrous vessels, moments ago radiating raw destructive energy, paused in their assault, their movements becoming less erratic, their energy signatures shifting into a complex, almost mournful symphony of light and sound. A fragile bridge of understanding was being built, a tenuous connection between two vastly different species, united by a shared sense of loss. On the bridge of the Ares, the crew watched in stunned silence as Volkov communicated with the destroyers. The air, thick with tension moments ago, now crackled with a cautious hope. The impossible seemed to be happening. The destroyers, who had cut a swathe of destruction across the galaxy, were responding, not with aggression, but with a hesitant curiosity. They're listening, they understand.
She continued speaking, her words a soothing balm on a wound that ran deeper than anyone had imagined. She spoke of the beauty of the galaxy, the delicate balance of life, and the enduring power of hope. And slowly, ever so slowly, the destroyers seemed to calm, their energy signatures shifting from a chaotic storm to a somber, pulsing rhythm.
It seems Lieutenant Volkov has a way with words, even if those words are spoken in a language we can barely comprehend. But what now? What do they want? The answer, when it came, was not through words, but through a series of vivid images, emotions, and memories that flooded Volkov's mind. The destroyers, she realized, were not just powerful beings of energy, but remnants of a once great civilization, their forms warped and twisted by a tragedy so profound that it had shattered their very essence. They were not destroyers by choice, but by circumstance, driven by a grief so vast that it threatened to consume everything in its path. The images poured into her mind, overwhelming in their intensity. She saw a vibrant world teeming with life, a civilization that had reached for the stars, their technology surpassing anything the Galactic Alliance could imagine. And then the cataclysm, a cosmic event of unimaginable power, a tear in the fabric of reality that had ripped their world and minds asunder, leaving only shattered remnants and an echo of their sorrow. Volkov gasped, her hand flying to her temple as the influx of emotions threatened to overwhelm her. She could feel their pain, their loss, the sheer, unyielding grief that had driven them to the brink of madness. They weren't evil, she realized, not in the traditional sense. They were broken with their minds and souls, split apart between different dimensions and quantum states that trapped them. an eternity stuck in a miserable, twisted existence that would drive any sentient being insane, their very essence fractured by a trauma so profound that it defied comprehension.
They lost everything. Their world, their families, their very history. It was all ripped away from them. This destructive rampage, it's not malice, it's grief. They're trying to fill the void, to numb the pain, terrified they are trapped for eternity in never-ending suffering. Her words hung in the air, heavy with the weight of revelation. The crew of the Ares, hardened soldiers who had faced countless battles, stared at the destroyers with newfound understanding, their expressions shifting from fear to a kind of somber empathy. The enemy, it turned out, was not so different from themselves. They too had experienced loss, had felt the sting of grief, but the destroyer's sorrow ran deeper, older, a wound that had festered for eons, warping them into something monstrous. Captain Somerville, a veteran of countless campaigns, found himself questioning everything he thought he knew about war, about good and evil. How do you fight an enemy driven not by hate, but by an all-consuming grief? How do you reason with the force of nature, a cosmic echo of a tragedy so profound that it defied comprehension?
What do we do now, Captain? We can't just let them go. They've caused too much destruction. We need to buy some time.
I need to understand them better, to see if there's a way to help them heal, to find some measure of peace. She looked at Somerville, her eyes pleading for his trust, for a chance to find a different path, a solution that didn't end in more death and destruction.
Somerville hesitated, his gaze flickering between the image of the destroyers on the view screen and the determined expression on Volkov's face. He could order an attack, attempt to finish what they had started, but deep down he knew that brute force wouldn't solve the underlying problem. It might buy them some time, but it wouldn't heal the wound that festered at the heart of the destroyer's being. It might even make things worse, pushing them further into the abyss of their sorrow. He took a deep breath, his decision made. Very well, Lieutenant, do what you can. We'll buy you some time.
As Volkov delved deeper into the destroyers' minds, seeking a way to reach them, to heal their ancient wounds, the Galactic Alliance fleet, led by Admiral Nelson, faced off against the remaining enemy forces that, for now, were distracted by Volkov. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance, not just a battle for territory or resources, but a battle for the very soul of civilization. Could understanding triumph over grief? Could compassion conquer despair? The answers and the future of the galaxy remained shrouded in uncertainty, to be continued.